y'all? Welcome to the AP&J Show, a podcast for the culture. I'm your boy AP,
And I'm Jay. What's poppin', y'all?
and what you trying to get into today, Jay?
All right, so it is episode 1, the first episode of the AP&J Show. So we had to
How
make
y'all
it
doing?
special. We've got 3 beautiful segments for y'all today. Real Talk with the Homies, the Film Grain, Jay's Film Grain, and the sound booth, Into the Sound Booth by AP.
Into the sound booth, y'all. Into the sound
Into the
booth.
Sound Booth with AP. We unfortunately couldn't, the person that we were going to get in contact with for our first segment of Welcome to the Table, there were some scheduling conflicts, but we wanted to get an episode out to y'all as fast as possible. So we'll be getting him or them. We're not him, them. We won't tell you like who the person is. No spoilers.
Y'all find out soon enough.
Y'all find out soon enough.
Find out soon enough.
You'll find for the next episode 2, we'll have them for sure.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Anyway,
Okay.
I think that we should get into real talk first, though.
Some real
So
talk. Some real talk for the first action.
Real talk for the first action.
All
Start
right.
the people off with the stuff that they know and love, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Two of the smartest men on the planet talking about things that we know nothing about.
Real deal. This the homage to the OGs that are back with us for the first season of Real Talk with the Homies.
Real ones
Now
know.
the
Also,
AP&J
okay,
show.
before we get into that, so we can track like our episode downloads, like the episodes that people seem to like the most. And the one that people like the most is called George Bush for Press.
Episode 6.
And that was about the election and QAnon stuff. That was way back in, like, what was that, 2020, was it? Or was it early 2021?
Yeah.
I can't remember. But that was a long time ago.
It was early 20. It was like October 2020.
And I would
That
just
was
like
the
to
last episode we released.
Yeah. So that one has the most downloads by far, and I'm kind of scared because I hope that it's not. They don't think that it's to us
Why?
plugging like Republican people or wanting George Bush back. It was a joke. The title was a joke. So I just want to put that. I just want to say
context,
that.
the context clues is what y'all need. But y'all just saw George Bush and ran with it.
I've been wanting to say that publicly for so long, and now we finally can say it. But anyway, let's get into AP. Let's talk about some.
What we talking about for that real talk?
All right, so today we're talking about some insane climate activist stuff that went down in New York. And we're also going to be talking about deep fakes. And the deep fake thing is interesting, I promise. But the climate change thing, that's more pressing. So we'll get into that first.
Yeah, so this is something that I saw on, I can't remember if it was Twitter or TikTok, like either at the beginning of this week or like a week ago. Again, I should have done more research on the topic. I'm going to keep that, at like right here. I'm just going to say it out loud. But from what I saw it was about 7 to 8 different climate scientists, I believe, that were also activists. They chained themselves outside of a building in New York. I think it was JP Morgan. Again, don't quote me on this, but it was 7 to 8 scientists. So that's 8. Like, you can count that on 2 hands. There's 8 scientists. And I swear, like, an absurd number of police officers, the New York PD, showed up to, like, take these people away. Like, the type of, like, numbers that is, like, why do you need that many people to show up for 8 people that are activists, that aren't, armed or anything? They're just there in lab coats or whatever they're wearing, just chained to these doors. And they're there because they're trying to push so that more people will know that if we don't start making an active change, and I don't know if it's legislation specifically, but if we're not trying to take steps to combat climate change, we have like 2 years before everything starts going to hell, basically.
Well, I mean, I think, or I just looked it up so we could actually have.
Okay, good.
Info.
Okay,
it
good.
was in L.A. It was in L.A.
Oh, L.A. Okay. I knew it was a big city. My fault.
It was in L.A. Sorry, y'all, but yeah, it was in L.A. It was like a big group of scientists, and they're all in riot gear, which is again just shows
the police. They're in riot gear for 8 scientists.
the things that goes on with the police. We've been talking about this for as long as we've been on this podcast.
And we'll probably continue talking about it too.
It's like bringing a paintball to a game of tag. It's like a level.
Yeah.
It's a level of
There's levels
unnecessary
to this.
violence that's just totally uncalled for. But they just like to,
Mm-mm.
they like to flex all the military gear, which they don't need. But that's a thing for a different story. This
Yeah,
police budgets are
they're
insane,
different,
man. But it
different.
also shows that LA is like not. LA is a pretty crime-ridden city. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes down there, and you're telling me
Mm-hmm.
that there weren't other things that were going on that were actually
That
required police
that
attention that day.
all like all of those police officers, like, come on.
LA's a big city, and they were just like, nope, nope, nope. Let's send what was it, like 30, 40 police officers and riot
Yeah,
gear to them.
yeah.
It's just too much. I really,
For
I
and again, like I said, they were unarmed. Like the only thing that they did was that they chained themselves to a door
yeah,
for an act
completely
of
unnecessary.
activism. Yeah.
Riot gear was not needed at all. They weren't even being violent. They were just sitting there. It's called oh man, I can't remember. It's a type of peaceful protest. I can't remember what it's called, but uncalled for. No one's being violent. No one was throwing anything. Just police. You know what? Police budgets are insane, man. Police. I can never get over this. I'm a big. We'll actually get into this in a real episode. We'll like do some research and actually have stuff to talk about. But I
Mm-hmm.
am a firm believer that if you just take even 20% of major city police budgets and put it directly into education for supplies, teacher
Oh,
salaries,
yeah.
classroom classroom amenities, anything, you will see uh, an incredible decrease in crime rates in those major cities, increases in high school graduations and college applications slash graduations. All of it's
Oh
all
yeah.
correlated, and they just waste all of their money trying to. It's like putting it's like shoveling shit onto shit to make it smell less bad. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any
Mm-hmm.
sense why they just keep throwing
Mm-hmm.
money at a problem in the wrong way. They need to be diverting resources away from the police
Yeah.
and into education. But I did
Yeah.
actually
Because
have
it's more than just, how some people say like we have to defund the police, but it's more than that. We have to abolish the police. Because
abolish.
because just like what you're saying, like if you're trying to defund and what's the word? So like if we defund the police, that's one way, and we can push it towards other areas, specifically education. Because as you said, there's correlations to this. Like there's levels to this that we know. Like if more money is there, we're going to see a greater outcome.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like who's going to actually push for that legislation within like the governments? Like we always know that people always say you have to go out and vote, you have to go out and vote. But like when are we actually going to see some change specifically from voting? You know? So it's
The
like,
problem.
yeah, it's more of like a push that we need to like abolish the police
Mhm.
system like of itself and like think of something new. But that's like always the hardest part though, like thinking of
Yeah,
something new.
it's because it's too much work, and that's why no one does it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
too much work, and the people believe that the police are for some reason holding up our country, and if we take them down,
Mm-hmm.
then that's just gonna
It's that patriotism.
topple the world. Even though I will say that America is a warmongering country, and if you actually look at economic graphs, um, during times of war, our economy like skyrockets. Like we have the most
Mm-hmm.
profitable years
Mm-hmm.
during times of war. We live. It's just everything. It's everything, and it's too much to get into in a very short real
Yeah.
talk segment. We
And
will
again,
talk
if you like,
about it in a future episode, but it is just it's a mess, and we'll
because
fix
like
it.
the,
We
but
will
then
fix it for you. Me
yeah,
and
I would
AP,
say I would
we will
say one
fix
more
it.
thing. I'll say one more thing that a lot of people like in this country don't know about like the history of the police force. I'm pretty sure we said it before, but it's always something you want to say again. Like the
Hmm.
police force is rooted in slavery, like the
Hmm.
slave patrols of like people hired to catch runaway slaves, enslaved people. I should say that's proper terminology. Like
Hmm.
people that were hired to catch enslaved people that are running away were slave patrols, and slave patrols turned into what we now know as the modern police force. So it's like
Hmm.
there's
In
levels
America,
to
at least,
this
in the
that
U.S.
a
at
lot of
least.
people don't know about.
Yeah,
But anyways,
that's an episode for another day.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's a topic with endless hours of discussion.
in a neck breaking change, deep fakes.
Yes, yes.
Actually, it's actually no, it's not. I'm actually gonna tie it back. It's not that far off. So on, I've been aware of this for a couple years now, but one popped up and this kind of sparked my thinking about this as a concept. Deepfakes, for those of you who don't know, it's basically facial tracking, and you can put a picture of someone else's face on your face and make you look like somebody else. Is basically how it works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grossly simplifying it, but that's basically how it works. I saw one. There's this guy who does really really good Tom Cruise deepfake. And
On
I saw one where
TikTok,
he's jumping over, um, Keegan
Keegan
Michael
Michael
Key's
Key.
jumping over his
Shout out Penn
shoulders,
State.
and he's shout up, hey, come on the podcast, come on the podcast. We love
You
you.
was Kirk. You was Coach Franklin. We saw Coach Franklin. Hey, this hey, holla at your boy. Holla at your
Bring him
boy.
on, bring him on, come through. um, but yeah, so I saw that, and I could tell it was a deep fake because there's just something that's off about the face or like how the eyes move and stuff. You can tell because humans have adapted to identify faces. Like that's just what we
Mm-hmm.
do. Our eyes, our brains, our neural circuitry. We have just learned to identify faces over thousands of years. We've learned to do that. So when something isn't a face, that's what the uncanny valley is. It's like it looks so realistic, but we can still tell that it's off.
Yeah.
But my point is, it's really cool. Like it's really cool, but it sparks an interesting debate about the rights that you have to your likeness. There's actually a
Yeah.
debate going on in Hollywood about this. Actors, because you can resurrect people from the dead using deepfakes. They did it in Star Wars. They're doing it a lot in Star Wars, which I have my own problems with. That's a whole nother.
Oh, so that's how they do like the CGI
Yeah,
stuff.
it's basically just an advanced deepfake.
Okay.
It's basically what it is. But aside from that, a darker turn for this, and I really hope I don't give anyone any ideas by saying this, but a darker turn for this is you can use this technology to frame people. You can put someone who wasn't there at the scene of a crime using this type of technology. And like this is still in its infancy. It's only been around for like five or so years. But to use Star Wars again, Star Wars had some of the original one in 1977 had the most advanced um, visual effects in history at that point, aside from maybe 2001: A Space Odyssey. And they used a lot of green screen. And back then, you literally had to cut out pieces of the frame, like in the film, and then put it up against a different background. Now you can do that on your phone super easily, and it looks pretty good. So just imagine in even another 5 years how advanced this technology will be. And it's
That's true.
terrifying
That's
to think
true.
of like how people could use this. So I really hope that someone like gets on this and puts a lock on it or learns a way that you can like a scientific way to prove the difference between a deep fake and a normal thing, because it's really scary. You can in theory you can frame people and you can put anyone at the scene of a crime, and it is genuinely terrifying to think about. And that's what I was going to tie into the police force, because they plant evidence all the time. It's well known that they plant evidence. So let's say they get some intern and they bully him into deep faking some dude who they believe is the actual person who's at the scene of the crime, even though he has an airtight alibi or whatever. But yeah, that's just the thing that really scares me about deep fakes. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's really cool and it can be really funny sometimes. But like, we just got to use it for good. Use your power for good. Don't do
that's
that.
weird.
Don't do bad
That's weird
things.
because I didn't even think about that. Think about it like that. In terms of like CGI and resurrecting celebrities. Because I remember, because one of my little brothers, he's 4 years old, but he's one of the biggest Michael Jackson fans I think I've ever.
It's
known.
adorable. It's the cutest.
And it really is. It's crazy. Like y'all should see the videos of this little boy dancing. It's gold. It's gold. But like I said, he watches a lot of Michael Jackson videos, and every once in a while we see this one performance of like when they do the hologram, like the holographic performances, like of artists. Like I know like a Tupac one. Like I remember over the Super Bowl, people were speculating that there might be like a Tupac hologram performance, like with Mary J. Blige and Dr. Dre and all them. But
I'm glad they didn't do that.
Thankfully it didn't happen. But that like
also
brings,
he's
like,
alive. And he
He's
just
in
disappeared
Cuba.
to Cuba to run away from Jada Pinkett Smith.
He's with his mama in Cuba. Just think about it. Run over oh, you ain't right. Oh, you ain't right. Hey, all I'm saying is Tupac would have slapped the mess out of Chris Rock and everybody would have been silent. That's all I'm gonna say.
We said we weren't going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it.
It slipped. I'm sorry. It slipped like that slap. Anyways, but no, like I was trying to like talk about both of them together. Like I know like the holographic things isn't really as like when it comes to like respecting like the people that have passed in performances in the same way as like deep fakes. So I don't know if it would kind of coincide with each other, like the morals and like ethical like
Mm-hmm.
values, I guess, of like the difference between the two of those when it comes specifically to like people we deem as celebrities and like famous
Mm-hmm.
people. But I don't know. Like it'd be weird to think about it. Is like if you had if this is something more personal, so it's not a celebrity, but if you had uh like if your parent passed away when you're like a young kid, but there's like an audio recording of them, like they knew they were gonna pass away, like they had
Mm-hmm.
cancer or something, and they knew they're gonna pass away, so they had an audio recording specifically to you, and you were
Mm-hmm.
given the opportunity to have like a deep fake video of them
Mm-hmm.
like saying that to you, like would there still be like a moral dilemma? I don't know. This is
I
just
don't
something
know.
coming right off my head,
That depends on the
but
person. But then you're also getting into kind of like post posthumous. I don't know how to pronounce that word, but you know when like Juice World, they, they've made like 3 albums with like all of his unreleased
oh,
music that they just keep involved.
posthumous. Is that the
Mm,
word? Posthumous?
I don't know how to pronounce the word, but you guys
Posthumous? I don't know.
posthumous, posthumous,
Posthumous? I don't know.
hippopotamus.
It's one of them.
Um,
It's one of them syllables,
but you know what?
right?
That I've heard it pronounced like 3 different ways, so I don't know how to pronounce it. But they do that a
Yeah.
lot, and they do that with like Pop Smoke. They
Mm.
Drake did it with
A
Michael
lot with music.
Jackson. It does, yeah, it's a lot with music because there's just so much. So it's like how much of this is okay. I still have a
Yeah.
problem with. I think that you need to stop if like an artist dies in the middle of them producing an album. I think finish it and then leave it alone.
Hey,
Unless they
did you ever,
explicitly say keep using my music, I think you should just leave it alone. But
did you
that's
know
just me.
fun. I don't know how real this is, but I saw it. It might just be a myth. But Otis Redding, for the recording of sitting on dock of the bay, like the
Hmm.
whistle part at the end, someone said like he died and they were never able to fully finish recording it. So
Oh,
like I saw
I did
again,
not
I
know
don't
that.
know how true that is. I was told this years ago, and I always think about
Mm.
that every single time because I love that song. But someone said that he died, and they're never able to fully finish the song. So at the very end, it's just him whistling. But weird. But I was trying to bring
Interesting.
up like we like you bring up how deepfakes can be used like in like a really scary way with police and like framing somebody. But then there's like the other side of it, whereas like deepfakes can be used to like have a certain type of like internal connection with someone that may have passed away that you know. So it's like it's really
Mm.
hard. It's really hard to think about it because there might be positive and negatives to 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 that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We
That's
will
just too
we will save this. We do want to do like a full-ish episode about this. But these are just, again, this is
put
real
that
talk
in
with
your
the
tab.
homies. But yeah, we will do a
Bookmark
future
it.
episode about this.
Bookmark it.
The ethics of it. And again, we're not lawyers and or musicians or whatever, but
Yeah.
we're just people who enjoy these
So we
things as
two
art.
boys that were in academia, so we know how to do our research. You
We
know.
do know how to do our research. We'll write a whole thesis about it. But anyway, speaking of
I
music,
won't,
let's hop
but
into the sound booth.
all right. Okay, we got the first episode or the first
Instance.
I don't know how to say that. I
Of
want to say like part one
just
or
episode
like
one. I think episode one works.
this is yeah, episode one. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. This is episode one of Into the Sound Booth. And today we're going to be getting into the album that dropped about not album, mixtape that dropped about maybe 2.5 weeks ago. DJ
Mm-hmm.
Drama and Dreamville, D-Day, a Gangsta
Mm-hmm.
Grills mixtape. So Jaden, what are your like biggest takeaways from this
Okay, so funny
entourage of
story.
music?
AP texts me and he's like, I want to cover this for the sound booth. And I was like, all right, bet. But he tells me, he's like, Jay, I'm warning you, there's a lot of outros in this mixtape. And something about me, I cannot stand outros in music. Like when they're just
Man hates
talking for like
outros.
30 seconds at the end of a song, I cannot stand that. It like I have this one, Ali Boombaye by the game and like whoever and whatever. There's like the end of that song, they're just talking about his Jesus piece for like 40 seconds. And it always messes up my workout when I'm in the gym. So that's part of like that's like just one of the many reasons why I feel like they should, if they're gonna do outros,
People
make make uh make like an outro edition, make an
have
outro
some reasoning
edition,
behind
and
it.
make a non-outro edition of your
Oh,
track.
okay.
And honestly, that might work better for you. It's more streams. So artists, maybe do that. I'll consider it a personal favor if you do that for me.
Hey, he might. This man Jay might be
But
on to
my main
something. I don't know.
takeaways,
No, I'm.
uh,
Uh-huh.
main takeaways. Honestly, this album was kind of all over the place for me. It was like it was. I guess DreamVille kind
Yeah.
of does this anyway because DreamVille is made of a bunch of different artists who come from a bunch of different backgrounds, and it wasn't all over the place in a bad way. But like you have
Yeah.
like drill beats, then you have like a weird like XXX Tentacion like Suicide Boys thing going on, like screamo type music, and then you have Ari Lennox dropping like a
Mm-hmm.
low key, very sexual song, and just like in the middle of it, and I was just like, "All love, oh
Hey,
yeah, we
all
love
love the
you,
Ari.
we
All love
love
the
you so
Ari
much."
though.
But and then they just had like they had like some underground like Lute stuff. I love Lute, by the way. Lute's a great artist, but it wasn't bad. Like I'm not saying this is bad, but it was just like I guess that's what a mixtape is, though. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. No, I was thinking kind of the same thing, and like when I was looking at like what other people were kind of seeing and thinking about it, everybody was kind of thinking the same
hmm
type of way, where like because I know for me, whenever I'm listening to something, and if it's like an album, not just like singles, like I try to see
hmm
like what the flow of it is from song to song, and see how much someone like not like how much someone's thought process
hmm
is like on the subject, but like how much they're thinking of like how each song coincides with each other for like the whole. And
hmm
I was kind of thinking the same thing, where like the first song
Stick was
on it,
hard.
Stick, was
Stick was hard.
hard. Like for like cause and whenever you drop in like a whole collection of songs, like the first
hmm
song always has to hit hard, and like that shit hit hard. So I was like, okay, I see how this is. But then like as it kind of goes along, because again, that's kind of like with the culture of Dreamville, like you said, because like the artists that are on Dreamville all kind of have different aspects, or like they show different aspects of
hmm
like artistry. So like you got guys like JID who are
Right.
like fast rappers, and they're gonna rap over like a drill beat. Then you got guys like Kaz or Armin that are gonna rap
Right.
kind of over like a more mellow, not as like straight up beat. And then you got Ari
Beautiful,
Lennox and
beautiful
her
voice.
fucking sexy ass
Mm.
voice. And ooh, I love Ari.
Ari, come on the pod. Come
So
on the
yeah, so
pod.
I know. So yeah. Hey, if Ari Lennox gets on the AP and
That will
J
be a
show,
dream.
that'd be a dream come true.
Okay,
I ain't
but
gonna lie.
so AP is
They still yeah.
the big music guy, our dynamic duo. He loves music.
I love
He really
music.
no he when he talks about music, it's like there's like a passion and like a lot of heart that goes into it. He down he downplays himself a lot, but he
What's
really
that?
he has so much talent that he's
What's
just y'all are
that?
not ready for him. He's
See,
hmm
it's like a raw passion, because like I think I've always thought of myself as having like an ear for music, and like being able to like if I'm listening to something, I can either somewhat pick the instruments
hmm
apart, or I can hear the melodies within it before like even actually listening to the song. But like the actual like technical stuff, and like the actual
hmm
process of like fully making music beyond just like writing lyrics and
hmm
like rapping whatever, if that's the case, I don't know. Y'all check that out later. Like that's some stuff that I'm still find myself being in the learning process of. So like trust me, like Into the Sound Booth, this is some raw ish right here. So it's very much like y'all gonna learn with
hmm
me along the way, and we're going to be able to dissect music better
hmm
the further along we
Well,
get.
that's a
And
beautiful thing, man.
yeah,
So
it's okay. Yeah, so but hey,
we out here
that's what
growing.
we are. We
We're
just
growing
out here just
together.
learning and
The
growing.
culture is growing with the culture.
The
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 people are growing with the
that's
people.
the the premise of episode 1. We're learning and growing, and we're learning and growing together as a community.
So,
Check it out.
musically, what did you think of
Okay.
this in terms of like the beats and like the flow? What were some of your favorite songs? What were some songs you think they could have left out? Uh, just give me your
Um
2 cents.
so beats wise, like I said, Stick, the first song that was on the
hmm
mixtape, hit hard as hell. And then the second one,
Ghetto Guys
Ghetto Gods
freestyle, yeah,
freestyle, I
I like
think,
that one too.
by Earth Gang and 2 Chains. Like the beat on that song, like the first time I heard
Yeah,
it, I was like, "Whoa, this is something. This is something right here." And then like I listened to it in the car, and like you can hear like if you like listening to music, you like listen to music in the car, you could hear like I don't even know what it was because again I'm still learning and growing, but like you could hear like the treble or the
Like
drum,
circles around
whatever,
the
like
car.
just like go around, just
So it was a good mix.
yeah,
It was a
yeah,
good
yeah. So
mix.
I was like, damn, like yeah, like for me, I was like that was my favorite beat, like just
Mhm.
like specifically beats, and like not even like beat with lyrics,
Mhm.
but just like listening to the beat, that was my favorite one. But I think like when it comes to favorite song, "Ballin' in Newport" by
That was your
Omen,
favorite.
that was my favorite song. Man, yeah, mainly because again, like you talked about how they have different beats, like it was kind of jumping all over
That's
the
what a
place. But
mixtape
again, that's
is.
kind of
Yeah, it's Dreamville.
like how
Mhm.
Dreamville is because of their art, like their artists and the artistry, like within the artist. So it had a different beat and a different tempo to it. But I thought, oh man, I looked him up. That man is 40. I did not know he was that old. That man is 40 from Chirac from
The OG.
Chicago, the OG. But I thought like he had really like his storytelling and his flow like within the song
Mhm.
itself like
Mhm.
really hit home to me. And like the lyrics, and again I say it's my favorite because like when I looked, like I took a deeper dive into the lyrics, like his lyrics specifically to
Mhm.
me, like it hit home. Like there is stuff in it where he's talking about going to college, and like his other homies like went other schools, other places, but like he didn't know like
Mhm.
where he could lean to. Talked about like want to be a hooper and like didn't want to be in class. He talked about like other stuff that like resonated with like me and like who I am as a person. So it kind of made me like
Mhm. You
draw
connect
to
with it
that
on a
song
deeper
more.
level.
But
Mhm.
yeah. And then starting five, the beat switch in
Starting
starting
five.
five is also my thing.
Okay.
And DJ Drama was quick with it when he talking about the slap. Again, I didn't want to bring it up again, but
I have
it
no.
was in the
They
music,
must. They
so I,
must have
I
like
had to
added
bring it up
that
again.
one song at the last minute because there's no way that they just. There's no way they did that whole
No,
project in two
listen.
days.
Okay, listen. Before I ask you about like what your favorite songs and beats were, I looked it up. They literally made this whole mixtape in like 10 days, and it was approved the day
Okay.
before
Wow.
it
Let's
was
salute that.
released. So like literally, like they made this like a week, not even like a week, but like 3-4 days after the
Right.
Oscars and like that whole incident went down. So
Yeah.
they were quick with it. They were like how fast people were on Twitter
That
and
just goes
stuff.
to
They
show
were
like the
quick
talent
with
these
it.
people have. They can drop something like this, have it pretty well received, and they only made it in like 10 days. Beats, mixing,
Yeah,
recording, all
yeah.
that. 10
So
days is
again,
pretty nuts. Because I remember
yeah,
who was
that's wild.
this is kind of a controversial opinion, but Culture Two by the
Uh
Migos.
oh.
They said that they recorded everything in like a
Amigos.
day, and the sentiment was like, yeah, we can kind of tell. Culture Two, it has some bops on it. They had some good music on there, but you could tell like
Yeah,
their heart wasn't in it. Now Culture Three, they brought it
yeah.
back, but Culture Two, eh. But
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not the sound booth guy. That's him. He told me to say
That's,
that. Alex AP told me to say that. So don't.
hey, don't look at me. Okay, but Jay, what was your favorite
Okay.
songs for beats?
So
Like, what was your
my
takeaway?
favorites, I have Like Wine with Loot, Ghetto Guys Freestyle, obviously. If I see
Mhm.
Earth Gang or Two Chains, I'm probably gonna like the song. I really like Earth Gang. I really like Two Chains.
Yeah,
Um,
that's facts.
Lifestyle, Barry from Simpson, Coming Down with Ari Lennox, Blackberry Sap with Ari Lennox, and Jawsy Flows. Those are my personal favorite. The
Mhm.
two Ari Lennox ones, in my personal opinion, I think those were the best songs on the whole one. But I'm a little biased because she has a beautiful voice and we love Ari Lennox.
Yep.
But those
Yep.
songs were
I
just
feel that.
beautiful and
Yep.
just her voice is just mwah, and everything was just so good on those. I really like Loot. I'm kind of a person who likes more like underground sounding music, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
what that kind of
No, I
sound
got
was
you.
for me with Like Wine. That's why I liked it a lot. Ghetto God's freestyle just because like the bars and just the freestyling was insane. And Earth Gang and Two Chainz are absolute goaded.
Yep.
Again, Boss, ASAP Ferg, love those two. Uh, JID, Two Chainz, Young Nudie, on Barry from Simpson. Again, all great, all great.
All
Again,
great.
I'm not a music person,
All
so
great.
I can't really do any analysis. But I'm just saying that those are my those are my favorites.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was. I was really surprised to see this come out when it came out, and I was just kind of
Mhm.
not taken aback, but I was just very shocked to see that they. I didn't even know Dreamville was like trying to do something, and to see it was like Gangster Grace Hills and stuff. I was just really surprised to see that too.
Mhm.
Because I haven't.
See, but here, see, this is what I was gonna like the part of this album I was gonna analyze like the most into, or like this is like what I told you about
Mhm.
earlier, like the theory that I had. So the album it dropped like 2 days before the Dreamville festival started. So I was like, maybe they're trying to add a little
Mhm.
something because either like for that, but then I thought that first, but then I looked a little bit deeper and I was like, okay, on Revenge of the Dreamers 3, the album that dropped back in what,
20. Yeah.
2019, I'm pretty sure. I was looking through the track list and the biggest artists like that like either like recently signed on or like or trying to make a name for themselves that were on it the most on Revenge of the Dreamers 3 was
Mhm.
JID and Earth Gang. But they were like they're only on a couple songs on this album, but the biggest stars, or not biggest stars, but the biggest artists on Dreamville on this album were
Yeah.
Omen
Oh,
and
so they're
Cos. So I
probably.
was like, huh. So I thought like maybe they're trying to do something where because like JID and Earth Gang after that Revenge of the Dreamers 3 album dropped, they like
Mhm.
blew up. Like I don't want to say like they weren't
It like
already
took them
big,
even
but
to
they
like the
like
next level.
started to
Yeah.
really do the thing and started they took them to the next level. Yeah. So I was like maybe this is a type of project that they're dropping right before the festival so more people would hear music by Cos and Omen, which
Mhm.
are two guys like I listen to Cos more than I do Omen. I didn't really know a lot about Omen, but again, I would say he was one of the noteworthy artists on this
Mhm.
album. I was like maybe they're dropping this specifically, well, I don't know, it's like specifically, but maybe they had that thought that let's have these two guys, two, three guys, because Loot also, I would
Mhm.
mention him like with those as being the type of guys that are on Dreamville, but they don't have as much
Right.
notoriety,
Like they're kind of
or
more low key, and they're
like
yet
they're
to be
not
big
as
up
much
to.
of a
I
yeah,
got you.
yeah, they're the more low key artists that are on Dreamville. Let's give them a bigger
Mhm.
platform because obviously everybody, if a Dreamville album drops out of the blue, everybody's gonna listen to it, regardless if like they're gonna like it or not. But they're gonna see, huh? Instead of J. Cole being on every single song, instead of JID Earth Gang being on every single song, we got Kaz, Omen, and Luke. Like who are
Mhm.
those guys? But then you listen to it and you're like, man, these guys they
Yeah.
got some bars. Like, oh man, this guy can flow. Oh man, like this guy's really talented. And then fast forward 3 days later, you go to the Dreamville Festival and you see all these guys and like, man, now I'm listening back to like what their old stuff was, and now I'm a
Exactly.
fan.
Mhm.
So I think that like was so, like some of the thought process and dropping this album specifically was getting the guys that are on Dreamville's label that are like not as known yet, some more to push them to
Getting them
that
some
next
more
level.
clout.
Yeah. That's like the main takeaway that I got
You
from this
see? You see
album.
how I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that. This
Interesting,
is why
right?
we have the sound booth.
I don't know if this is real. That's why I said
Hold on,
this is a
wait.
theory. This is a
Low
theory.
key, they're kind
But
of stealing our bit. They're doing a welcome to the. They're stealing it. J. Cole. What,
hey, yeah, you bring that. You found that. That man Luke. We
we
gotta get him on the
yo,
show.
if we get loot on the show,
Hey,
hit us
Luke.
up. Hit us up.
Hey, Luke. If you see this,
Hit us up
hit us up.
at
Please hit
AP
us
and
up.
J Show on all social media platforms.
Yeah, the AP, the APNJ at gmail.com. That as well. Everything will be in the description. Yes.
And then just before you wrap up, I just wanted to say something that was like kind of cool to me. Kenny
Okay.
Mason on Stick. I discovered Kenny Mason like 5 years ago. There was this song like Nike.
Really? I don't
There's
even
a
know who
song
that
Nike
is.
that I really liked. What was it called? Nike? Yeah, probably. And and I had it on a playlist and I was listening to it all the time. And then I kind of got into other music and stuff. But it was kind of cool seeing him because I thought he was
Yeah.
really talented. And I listened to some of his album. He has one called like Angels, really good. You should listen to that. Really talented. I think he's about
Mm,
our age, but
okay.
yeah, it was just cool seeing him on Dreamville. So maybe he'll be next up finally. Because I was listening to him and I was like, he's next
Yeah,
up.
that's
He's
tough.
next up, and he just never got his break until now.
I know this man's voice.
But yeah, what are
Yeah.
your
5 years later. Hey, that's
what are
what it is.
your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are again, this is a DJ Drama Dreamville Gangsta Girls mixtape. DJ Drama, he's done like I looked it up. It was like it's well over 100 different Gangsta Girls mixtapes, like dating back like 23, 24 years ago.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
don't think this is one of the best ones that he's
Really?
done.
Mm-hmm.
No. because he's done. I forgot it was like the Dedication 1, Dedication 2 with Lil Wayne. He's done
Yeah. Oh
stuff with
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jeezy, Gucci Man. So it was like there's a lot of different artists, especially back in like the early 2000s, that he
Mm-hmm.
worked with on Gangsta Girls mixtapes
Mm-hmm.
specifically. So I'm talking about like with that label, like as a Gangsta Girls mixtape. I don't think it's one of the best ones. I think that's like a DreamVille like album, whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's pretty. I think it's solid. Again,
Solid.
I don't think it's the best thing that they've done, but I thought it was solid. You know, like
So.
it wasn't like there wasn't anything on it that made me like go like absolutely crazy over or
Mm-hmm.
like oh this is something like new or like something they've never done before. But like as Dreamville and their artists, like this is just showing their artistry. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is just showing like who they have.
Right.
So
Right.
like
Like
I
a
don't so
showcase
like I think
almost.
it's yeah. So like so if we're rating albums on Into the Sound Booth, I would say this is like a good 3.84 out of 5.
3.84 out of 5. We got to come
Yeah,
up with a
that's
rating
what I
system
rate.
for you.
I'm also
It's like specific to
yeah.
you. How many afros out of 5 would you get? Out of 5 would you
I
give
would
it?
say this is half a braid.
Half
So
a
a whole
braid.
head that's twisted is like half a braid. I don't know. That's a terrible. Well, I'll think of something else.
All
But
right. Well, that was a great.
but it was good. It was good.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was an excellent into the sound
All
booth.
right. All right. Now jumping from the sound booth, we're hopping into your favorite auditorium, theater, whatever you want to say
Mm-hmm.
for Jay's Film Green.
Jay's
Yeah.
film grain, baby. Yes, sir. All right. So today, for the first one, I want to start off with a movie that's pretty well regarded. May or may not have heard of it. It's called CODA. You've definitely heard of it. It was the Academy Award winning for Best Picture of the Year. It also won a
Mm-hmm.
couple awards for the actors. I think it was Best Supporting Actor, but we'll get into that. So before we
All
get into
right.
my analysis and our thoughts on the movie, why don't we jump into a brief synopsis? This movie takes place in a fishing town called Gloucester, Massachusetts. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but whatever. It follows our protagonist Ruby, who's a 17, 18-year-old, high school senior, who's kind of discovering herself in the world, and she happens to be a CODA, which is an acronym for Child of Deaf Adults. Now, um, she has her parents are both deaf, and so is her older brother Leo. Her father's name is Frank. Her mother's name is
Jackie?
Jackie. Yes, her mother's name is
Yeah,
Jackie.
Jackie.
I forgot. I couldn't remember if it was Jessica or
Mm-mm.
Jackie. No, the main conflict, if you want to call it, of this movie is she has basically been living as an interpreter for as long as she has been alive because she is the only one in her family who is hearing.
Mm.
So her family has been I don't want to say using her, but she has been like kind of a doorway into the hearing world, and it's been very helpful for her family to
Mm-hmm.
have her
Mm-hmm.
around to translate for like her dad's job or school stuff or whatever is needed, communication with family. If you are a coda and you're listening to this, you probably understand that. Um, but yes, so she has a passion for music. She's an excellent singer. She's a very beautiful singer, and she wants to go. She decides that she wants to go to college. She doesn't want to help out with her dad's fishing business anymore. She wants to move on and go to the school called Berkeley. She meets this really great music teacher who teaches her how like the proper um, method of singing, like using your breath and opening up your chest and different breathing exercises because she has no formal training. And he kind of mentors her on her way towards Berkeley. But at the same time, her family is leaving this third party to sell their fish, and they're going to be selling the fish by themselves with the other fishermen in the town. So that's basically like how the synopsis goes. And of course, there's a love interest, and there's a best friend, but they're not super important. We'll get into that in a little bit. But that's basically how the movie goes. It's a really beautiful character drama, nice bildungsroman. That means a coming of age story. And I like that. Well, actually, before we
Technical.
get into that, what are before we get into that, what are some of your thoughts on the movie before I get into my stuff? Because I'm gonna be talking for a while.
Okay, so I got three things. My favorite character was Frank, her
Yep,
dad,
definitely the dad.
mainly
Yep, yep.
because he resembles so much of my dad. So like I was able to put myself like more and like into the shoes of the character. So
Hmm.
like his sense of humor and stuff again like straight on like my dad. And then there's two scenes that are like my favorite. The first scene was when she went to her teacher that was like training her for her audition, and like he was saying like, oh, you're not like um you're not respecting my time. But she's like stuck between helping her whole family
Mm-hmm.
and like this new business, but then she also want to like pursue something on her own. And then she finally like
Mm-hmm.
broke down there, saying like she's never done anything without her family before.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was like a really powerful scene. And then, and I don't want to spoil the movie, but like the end scene when she finally did the duet and
Mm-hmm.
like her parents' perspective of it, like really like it was like wow. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's like the main takeaways I have from the movie. But overall, I really did like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a. I think that the writing was definitely my favorite part. It felt very. I wrote down here. I took some
Hmm.
notes while I was watching it. I wrote that this movie feels like a nice home cooked meal. You know, it's very comforting. It's very
Oh
warm.
yeah.
You feel very at
Hmm.
home when you're watching this movie because
Hmm.
there's things that you can relate to as just as a person. You know, the of course, like most of the characters are deaf in this movie, but that doesn't mean anything. They're still a family. They're still, you know, joke
Yeah.
around about stuff. They still have things they talk about. Like they're no different
Yeah.
from us. They just can't hear. And that was kind of a sentiment that I was watching some deaf reviewers. That was something that they appreciated about this movie. They said that the portrayal is very accurate. They had a very nice family dynamic, and these people were
Hmm.
saying that they're very close with their parents. This guy who was a CODA who I watched, he said his parents like cried when they were watching the movie because they loved how the family
Oh
was
wow.
portrayed. So that was something that I definitely really appreciated. The comedy definitely did it for me. There was a couple of things that I really liked. There was a scene where the at the very beginning when they're kind of doing the establishing stuff, like showing where we are, who we're talking about, what the girl is like, what the school is like. The dad is coming in his pickup truck and he's bumping 2 Chains, and it's
Uh huh.
so funny because it's
Her
loud
dad
and
look
everyone
gangster rap.
and he's like this white looking dude. He's like this white country looking dude, and he's listening to this rap music, and it's so funny. that was
Yeah.
yeah. I really liked the jokes and the comedy in this movie.
That's
Um, I
fire.
also liked that the high school wasn't. I don't really know how to put this, but when you see these kind of high school dramas, like Euphoria or Riverdale, or even High School Musical, the
Hmm.
characters, the actors all look very like model-esque. They look like they should be on Teen Vogue or
Hmm.
like doing
Yeah.
some Aeropostale jeans shoot or something like that. These all
Aeropostale.
look like regular normal kids, and like that's the best way I can describe them. They just look like normal kids. I like that they're not all 30 years old. They're about 18
Yeah.
ish, 18 to 20. I don't think you can hire
So
minors
the
to do that,
the
but
casting
yeah,
the
the cast was
casting was
very
like
good.
really really
The
good.
cast was excellent. Yes. Um. Okay. Speaking of the cast, this was this movie is actually a remake of a French film called La Famille
Mm.
Bélier. I'm sorry to my French viewers if I pronounced that
French.
wrong, but
Uh-huh.
they they basically that original film had no deaf actors in it, so all the actors were hearing. The whole
Wow.
cast, the whole crew was hearing. Yeah, they
Mm.
really fumbled the bag
Okay.
on that one. And this was
Yeah.
recently made. It was made in like 2014. It wasn't made that long ago. Um,
That's
so one of
crazy.
the one of the producers of that movie uh, came to the director. Her name is Sean Heater. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Sean Heater. And they were like, "I want to redo this for American slash English speaking audiences. And we're gonna do it right." So they hired a bunch of ASL interpreters, translators, deaf casting crew,
Mm.
everything. And the deaf cast
All right.
really,
The whole nine
really,
yards.
the whole 9 yards. The deaf cast really did it for me. I think they were some of the best actors in this movie. And
Oh
I
yeah.
was reading the interview that they did with the director, and she was saying how she learned that um, ASL is it's not just your hands, like your whole body and your facial expressions, and even like your mouth is
Oh yeah.
different, makes different shapes when you're signing. And it makes for a really
Hmm.
compelling performance, and even the comedy, it makes it more
Yeah.
physical. It makes it even funnier because you like have to look at what they're doing. And they were saying that ASL is a very intimate language because you have to be looking at the person to see what they're doing, and they're very expressive, so
Yeah.
that really makes their performances very um powerful and unique, and you really like feel their
Yeah. Like
emotions because like hmm
I was gonna say, like the scene where her parents thought that they're having sex, and the dad was like, "You need to use a condom," and did the
yeah,
whole
and you was
army soldier with his whole arm. Oh my
yeah, that
god,
was that was
that had
another
me out. That
that
had
was a
me
really
out.
funny scene. Oh, it was so good. I love the parents were so good. um there were definitely some weak points in this movie from
Yeah.
a film perspective. Um,
Okay.
there was the best friend character. I felt like they didn't really need to include her. She really didn't do much in the movie. She was just kind of there to hook up with the brother, and then that was kind of it.
That was
She didn't
weird.
really.
Was she supposed to be 18? Because
I
I was
hope she
like,
was.
this is weird. I was like,
I'm pretty sure she was. I think it was implied,
okay,
but
okay, good. Because I was like, this is kind of weird. She's supposed to be like 16, like,
but that but that's kind of the point, is that they don't really do anything with her, so you don't really know anything
yeah,
about her. So I
yeah,
felt like they could have left
that
her
makes
out,
sense.
and I really mm, I wish to God that they had focused more on the older brother. The older brother was such a
Okay,
compelling
interesting.
character. That actor,
Yeah.
his name is Daniel Daniel Durant. He is a fantastic actor. He's actually
Mm,
pretty well
all
known. He's
right,
been in a couple Netflix shows. He's really good. I really like him.
all
But
right,
there
all
was a
right.
scene with the two of them. The conflict between the two siblings is that, obviously he's deaf and she's hearing. So a lot more responsibility is placed on her, because it's a little easier for, the family to communicate with the hearing, because she can
Yeah.
hear. And it's, reading
Mm-hmm.
lips isn't, they say in the film, it's like not as efficient or whatever. But
Yeah.
I mean, he makes a really good point that there was a deaf reviewer. Her name is Ricky Pointer. She like really appreciated that this was in the movies, that deaf people aren't babies. They're not children.
Mm-hmm.
They've been communicating with the hearing their whole lives. They know how to do it. They are no different
Yeah.
from us, aside from the fact that they can't hear. That's literally the only difference. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they've grown up in a hearing world. It's so they know how to fit in with a hearing world, so to speak. Um,
Yeah.
and he becomes frustrated because he has no responsibility, and he gets treated like a baby by his own family just because he can't hear, even though it's his idea to come up with the fishing business.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who's like doing a lot of the work, and he just becomes really frustrated. And I can kind of, I'm an older brother, so I can kind of understand why he's frustrated having no responsibility, even though he's perfectly capable of doing things by himself.
Oh yeah.
And they
Oh
show
yeah.
that. I just wish they had done more to explore that relationship between the two of them. They only had that one fight and a couple moments where he got upset, but I didn't think that was quite enough.
Yeah.
Another issue, this isn't coming directly from me, but you can almost like, I watched this movie a couple times to get a good analysis, to sift through with a fine grain,
Oh
That's how we do it on the
yeah.
film grain, baby.
Yeah.
Um,
He's film great.
but you can tell that, even as like a hearing person, you can tell that the actor, I think her name is Emily Jones, who plays Ruby, Amelia Jones, sorry, that she is not like a real coda, and that she's not really fluent. I mean, she does a great job. Don't get me wrong. She does a great job. Her performance is great, but you can tell that her signing is not on the same level as the other deaf characters in the movie. And
Mm.
I watched again Ricky Pointer, the deaf reviewer. She said the same thing. She's like, I can tell that it's off. I imagine it's like if you speak Spanish and you hear someone who's speaking like year six Spanish, it doesn't quite sound right.
Yeah. Like it's there, but
And
it's there, but it's not there.
yeah, and then this other coda whose name is Alan Boatner, he kind of expressed a similar sentiment. He wished they had hired a real coda, because there are plenty of coda actors in Hollywood. They could have found somebody.
Really?
Um, yeah. Oh yeah, dude. There's so many. There's so many. There's all types of actors in Hollywood. Just they're just very picky with who they
Yeah.
put in their
That's
movies
true.
because of how
That's
marketable they
true.
are or whatever. Um. Oh yeah. Another thing that I thought was kind of funny. This is kind of veering away from my thoughts and a little more, because I view this movie as more than just like a movie. This is meant to be like a representation film. Is kind of what this is supposed to be.
Oh
It's
yeah.
supposed to kind of like open a doorway and expose millions of people to something that isn't, well, is talked about, but doesn't hasn't really had the public platform that it should have. It's getting
It's not
better
like the
now.
main. It's like not like mainstream.
Yeah. Um. They said that they like that they don't shy away from talking about sex in this movie.
Oh yes, one hundred
they
percent. Oh my gosh.
Ricky Pointer was saying that it's it's very, it's like sex is already pretty taboo in movies and whatever, but it's like a ultra taboo when it's like, differently abled, disabled people. It's
Hmm.
like, ooh, we're not supposed to talk about that. But they just
Yeah.
like they're like, nope, they do it. Here it is.
Like
There's
now
like a,
we
not a real
we
sex scene,
do
but
it.
it's like a, yeah, it's right there. It's right
Yeah.
there. I mean, it's PG-13 there, but it's like it's there.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, overall, I really did enjoy the writing of this movie. Like that's like my big takeaway. The cinematography, this isn't like meant to be. I did write in here. I really love indie films, because indie films are almost always captured what's called in camera. So in camera means
mm,
what you see
More
there
technical term.
exists and it's all real and stuff like that. A lot of
Okay.
like big blockbuster movie stuff that we see is like the only thing that's captured in camera or like the actors, and everything else is
Mm.
green screen. But I
Oh,
like
that's
that they
true.
actually like they went on a boat and they went into the forest and they went to the lake and all that stuff is captured in camera, and it's just like a quality that you can't quite mirror. And I just really appreciated that.
Yeah.
It makes it feel all that more real and like relatable.
Hmm.
Um, I
Definitely.
would I would definitely say that the strongest points of the movie are the singing scenes. Those are definitely the strongest points in the movie.
Hmm.
Especially like AP mentioned the duet. So there's a whole thing. Yeah, that's the other thing. The love interest in this movie, it was really cute, but it wasn't really the focal point. That was another thing. I was like, they should have either focused on it more or left it out entirely. I don't know. It was
Mm.
I
Okay.
have mixed thoughts
Interesting.
about it.
Yeah. All right.
But they so in movies that have music in it, there's usually like they're singing and they're practicing, and then there's the big duet like at the end of the movie or whatever.
Hmm.
But
The big
when she
show.
finally does the big duet, it just silent. It's meant to mirror what the parents are feeling. And the parents are
Yeah.
sitting pretty far back in the audience, so they can't even like really read her lips because they're really far away. And it's like a really powerful moment because like you can feel that, they're trying to support their sister, their
Hmm.
daughter, but they
Hmm.
they can't appreciate her talent. And then there's right after that, they hit you in the stomach with this scene with her father, and they're sitting in the back of the pickup truck, and her father asks her to perform the song again, and he puts his hands on her
Exactly.
throat and on her back so he can feel like her breath, feel her vocal cords vibrate. And it almost movies don't make me cry, but that almost got me.
I ain't
That
gonna
almost
lie.
got
I
me.
got teary eyed.
Yeah,
Like
it got me.
I wasn't
It's a
balling, but
softie.
I was teary eyed. Hey, what happens when you finally let yourself feel emotions again? You end up feeling emotions, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. I was like,
Yeah,
man, this had me. It
it
had
was a
me. I
really
ain't gonna
beautiful
lie.
moment.
It was good.
Um,
It was good.
but kind of bouncing off that, while it was really beautiful and really well done, this is a trope that I do notice when there's a deaf character in a
Mm,
movie. Music is something that they tend to focus on. It's like, oh no, they're deaf.
mm,
They can't listen to music. Oh, how terrible. But like that's not true.
yeah.
Deaf people listen to music
Mm,
all the time. There's well, they can enjoy music. They can't listen to music, but they enjoy music. Um, they they like I said, rap music, music with heavy bass. There's like hundreds of deaf musicians and deaf songwriters and whatever. It's just like something
feel
that
that
feels like a bit of a
vibration.
tired trope.
Ooh.
Is a bit of a tired trope, and I wish that they would kind of move past it. Because we had The Sound of Metal. Now this movie, there was another one that I can't think of where it's like a similar
Mm,
thing. It's like, oh, there's a deaf musician. Whatever shall they do? And I just kind
damn.
of wish they would explore something new, narratively speaking. But I do understand that it's like easy, so people kind of gravitate towards it, but they try to do it different. I just think that as a whole, me personally, they should just try something else. Try something else. I don't know.
Yeah. Listen to Jay. He knows what he's talking about. You hear all these technical terms. What this man's doing? This man's about it. He's like that. He's like that.
I'm like that. I read. I be reading and watching a
He
lot of
be
master
reading.
classes.
He be watching. He be doing a do.
But yeah, yeah, wow, man. What a movie. I would still watch this movie again and again with my family. It's such a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my problems with it, but honestly, I can ignore those because it's just such a beautiful, relatable story. It's like a story of
Mm-hmm.
responsibility and making sacrifices and
Mm-hmm.
finding your path, which is something that I think that we can all kind of appreciate
Oh yeah.
being this age. It never really
Oh yeah.
stops. I think that feeling of finding yourself, I don't think it really stops, especially being young, being 18
Mm-hmm.
to 20 something,
Mm-hmm.
this weird period that we're in our lives. Sometimes it's nice to see someone who
Oh yeah.
is able to find themselves, and then you
Oh
can
yeah.
kind of glom onto it. So we hope that you enjoyed the first episode of the AP and J show.
Yes, sir.
Alex,
Yes,
AP, and I try
sir.
to try something different now, a new
Mm-hmm.
format. Try to do something a little more organized. So if you
Learning
have
and
any
growing.
suggestions for us, we're here to grow and change with y'all. So please, if you have any
Hit us up.
suggestions, things that you want us to talk about, please leave it in the comments on YouTube
Email.
under the AP and J show,
Hit us up.
or give us a review on Apple Podcast, 5 stars only. We will not accept anything less than 5 stars, and
Nope.
I will
We won't.
know if you're thinking about giving us less than
Only
five
five.
stars. I know a guy.
I see you.
But leave us some suggestions in the comments or in the reviews on Apple Podcasts. Also, please check out our Patreon at the APNJ Show, patreon.com/APNJ Show. Also, Instagram,
That
Twitter,
exclusive
TikTok,
content. Ooh.
all under the APNJ Show. I'm sorry, all under at APNJ Show. My mistake. So yes, we really appreciate your support, and please tune in for the next episode. We will be releasing on Wednesdays. That is our official release day.
We'll be back
Wednesdays.
next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday?
Hit us up.
Oh, I don't know about next Wednesday, but we'll be releasing on Wednesdays.
I didn't say which Wednesday. I just said the next. The next is a plural. Not really. So
we're gonna try to do every other Wednesday. That's gonna be
every other Wednesday.
Our tentative release schedule. So we'll be skipping the following Wednesday after this episode comes out, and then we'll try and post the next one.
We'll be back in what, May? We'll be back in May.
Yeah, we'll be back in May, right when y'all are graduating. Some of y'all.
But that's Spring Beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Spring Beauty and the AP&J Show.
And then you can bump the AP&J Show while you're taking your graduation pictures, or when you're having dinner with your family, you can play it for them. Plug us.
Or if you're cruising around town with the windows down, you know.
Tops drop. Tongues pop. But yes, thank you for tuning into the AP&J Show, and we will catch y'all on the flip side.
Catch you on the flippity flip.